Have you ever felt cursed by how much you see, how deeply you feel, like you're living in a world blind to what's obvious to you? What if your intelligence, your awareness, your emotional depth isn't a gift, but a kind of quiet torment? Carl Jung believed that with every step closer to truth, we tear further away from comfort. In this video, we'll explore Jung's terrifying insights into the pain of being hyper-aware, why your suffering might stem not from weakness, but from seeing too much, and more importantly, how to survive it. Why do the most self-aware people often feel the most lost? Why does clarity often bring isolation instead of peace? By the end, you'll either hate this truth or be freed by it. Carl Jung once warned, "Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious." And in that single line lies the curse of awareness. Because to be truly conscious is not to float above the world, it's to be buried beneath the weight of seeing everything too clearly. What you once called your gifts, intelligence, perception, depth, start to feel like shackles. You see through facades. You notice lies others accept as truth. You hear the subtext beneath the words. And worst of all, you see yourself. Jung's concept of the complex explains how awareness triggers inner conflict. Your insights begin activating parts of your unconscious that don't always agree with your conscious identity. You're no longer one person. You're a war zone of selves colliding. You start to feel the weight of your parents' emotional wounds, the hollowness of societal rituals, the crushing realization that even your good intentions are shadowed by ego. You weren't born to suffer, but your mind, your clarity, is what's making you suffer. Because the more conscious you are, the more you realize how unconscious the world is. But it gets worse. Jung believed that once you start seeing, you can't unsee, and it begins a war within you. The moment awareness sharpens, the self fractures. Jung called this the path of individuation, a lifelong process of becoming who you really are. But what he didn't sugarcoat is this. Individuation begins with chaos. It starts when the ego, the part of you that wants to be good and accepted, crashes into the shadow. The part of you that holds everything you've denied, ignored, or feared. You become both the observer and the subject. You're painfully aware of your reactions, even as you're having them. You hear yourself lie while knowing the truth. You sabotage your progress and watch it happen in real time. It's like being trapped in a room with your worst parts, and there's no door. The war isn't with the world, it's with yourself. And this internal battlefield creates a special kind of suffering, the suffering of knowing. What if your suffering isn't coming from outside? What if it's from your refusal to integrate the darker parts of yourself? Jung warned that self-knowledge is dangerous. It requires not just intellect, but courage and humility, because the deeper you look, the less innocent you become. If you've ever felt like you're watching your life fall apart from the inside, you're not alone. Jung saw this coming. And yet, the most dangerous part of awareness isn't what you see in others. It's what you begin to see in yourself. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But when you begin that process, when your awareness turns inward, the most horrifying mirror appears. The shadow. Not just the ugly things about the world, but about you. This is the part of you you've buried. The rage you disguise as logic. The envy hidden behind virtue. The despair beneath your ambition. And here's the harsh truth. You might not be who you think you are, and your mind knows it. You grow, you evolve, and suddenly, you're ashamed of the past self that pretended to be awake. The more aware you become, the more you notice your own contradictions, hypocrisies, the little ways you betray yourself daily. You see how often you're performing instead of living, and it's unbearable. This is the loneliness of honest self-reflection. You no longer just see the world, you see through yourself. And that's far more terrifying. You don't just see the world clearly now, you see yourself. And that means carrying the full weight of your complexity. But even worse, this awareness turns you into an outsider, not just to others, but to yourself. Once your eyes are open, the world you belong to disappears. Carl Jung believed that true individuation sets you apart. It demands that you walk away from the collective illusions of society. And that's where the exile begins. It's not just loneliness. It's the feeling that you no longer speak the same language as those around you. Your family's conversations seem hollow. Your friendships start to feel performative. You laugh at jokes that no longer make sense to you, nod at beliefs you no longer share, and slowly, you become a stranger, not just to your old world, but to your old self. Jung called this the death of the persona, the identity you wore to survive. That identity must die for the real self to be born, but the in-between is excruciating. You're awake in a room full of sleepers. You're craving connection in a culture built on pretense. You've been trying to fit into a world that's too shallow for you. What if that's not your failure, but your destiny? You're not broken. You're in exile because you woke up, and the world doesn't know what to do with people like you. And yet, Jung didn't believe this path had to end in despair. There's a way through it. Most people think healing means returning to some innocent version of themselves. Jung disagreed. He believed that real peace comes not from being pure, but from becoming whole. And wholeness means integrating everything. Your brilliance and your fear, your compassion and your rage, your hope and your darkness. You've been trained to resist your shadow, to shame it, suppress it, deny it. But awareness without acceptance only deepens the wound. You don't find peace by ignoring your flaws. You find it by recognizing they're part of the story. Jung called this integration, not curing the darkness, but giving it a name, not erasing your pain, but learning from it. Because when you stop waging war on your own mind, something strange happens. Your clarity starts to feel like power instead of pain. You don't have to be at war with your own mind. You can be whole, even if you're not healed. Your awareness hurts because it's incomplete. But once you accept your darkness, your depth, the pain becomes meaning. But one question remains. Can you live in this world with this level of awareness without going mad? Jung never promised comfort, but he did offer a way to survive awareness without breaking. His answer wasn't in self-help cliches. It was in grounding rituals. Creative expression, solitude, mythology, and introspection weren't hobbies to him. They were survival strategies for the overly conscious mind. When the world feels like noise, you need silence. When your thoughts overwhelm you, you need stories that make sense of them. Jung saw myth not as fantasy, but as psychological truth, a symbolic map for navigating inner chaos. And you need others like you, the rare few who speak your language, who don't flinch when you talk about the void, who nod when you admit that being awake can feel like a curse. If this resonates with your inner life, you're not alone. Subscribe for more insights like this. This channel exists for minds like yours. You're not crazy. You're just seeing clearly in a world built on illusions. And that clarity, if you hold on to it, can become your strength. But after all this, you still have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Awareness is a double-edged sword. It opens your eyes, but scars your soul. It tears away your illusions, but leaves you exposed. And yet, would you trade it? Would you choose to go back to sleep, just to feel safe again? Carl Jung never said the path would be easy, only that it would be real. So now that you've seen all this, what will you do with your awareness? Because once you start seeing, there's no going back.